and actually you've met the opposition you met wasn't necessarily Taliban as such.
No, it was everything. It was really a medley of fighters. You know, some guys came over from Pakistan that were I don't know all the figures and you know, but I know there was fighters inside the valley, like Chechen fighters and stuff like that, and it's almost like an area where people could come over and say, hey, you know, you want to shoot at some Americans, here's a great place to shoot at Americans.
Like sort of Quasar, but like with live rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was like, so it wasn't even like we were winning. Even if we won every one of those battles, we still weren't winning the fight in the valley because we still hadn't influenced the people because they were too busy fighting people that just wanted to fight us. So it was impossible to win that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know to this day when I look at the interviews between Dan and the Shuras, all I think is that that's not his job. You know, he's not the he's not the person to do that. You know, that's not what he's been trained to do. Like, how can you take an American major whose job is to deliver missions and operations and you know, build roads and bridges and, you know, hold ground? Like, how can you put him into a deeply political, sensitive, indigenous negotiation with it was almost like watching a stormtrooper trying to negotiate with an Ewok. And do you know what I mean? Like, with a really rubbish with Bart Simpson as the interpreter.
It was frustrating, you know, and you know, in reality, what we wanted for them was totally not what they wanted for themselves, and that's what it came down to. You know, what we wanted to give them wasn't what they wanted. You know.
Well, I mean, they're gangsters.
Even if it was something they wanted to do it on their own account. Even if it was hauling it in by donkeys from, you know, Kabul, you know, so.
Well, it's a bit like men and women, isn't it? You know, it's that same sort of thing, like what you want and what they want, what we want, they're not the same. We're not the same. We don't have the same wants and needs, you know, like we're totally different. And I really felt that when I watched the film as well, is that their wants and needs are so different to what you were trying to offer them. Right. And it was very complicated. I think Afghanistan is really complicated, and I think that's one of the reasons I really like the film, is because I think it demonstrates it without judgment. Like, it doesn't say, you know, Dan, I just felt he was totally ill-equipped to do that. Like, he almost had an impossible task, and when I talked to him about it, he didn't like to think of it as impossible because he's in the military, and the relationship between failure and success and impossible means failure, and you know, nobody wants that. That's, I think, for the military, I think that's something that people don't understand as well, because you're so competitive, which is part of what you're trained to be, you know, so therefore success is everything to someone in the military, regardless of what the objective is, really. You know, even if it's like put that ping pong ball in that cup, that's the objective. So that's what you want to do, and that's what success looks like, is getting the ping pong ball in the cup. So building the road is what success was, because that's what you were told to do. So it's difficult.
It was hard, and it's hard still to measure, you know, victory in the valley. But I mean, you know, we did with the best what we're given, you know, and I think that's a victory in itself. I mean, we survived up there, and after, you know, October, we didn't lose anyone for another 10 months. You know, I mean, that's sort of what victory. You know, we learned and we adapted and we grew from that environment. You know,
pushing up the mountain, I think, was very significant, wasn't it? Getting Reshtrapo and building that, creating that sort of buffer, really, for yourselves.
100%.
And did that hurt though? Was it a difficult thing to do? Were you digging deep, do you think?
To build it itself, like the physical part?
Yeah, and just getting up there and...
Jesus, it was one of the most demanding things I've ever done in my life. I mean, we woke up before light every morning, and we'd eat breakfast, and then we start digging, and we dig all day long into the side of the mountain with picks and shovels, filling up these Hescos one by one with these chunks of rock that we had chipped off the mountain. And we did this for day after day after day. The breaks that we had were when they shot at us, we'd get down and shoot back at them. And then when they stopped shooting, we had to go back to work. And on top of making the base, we were also doing one patrol a day. So we were going out off base and into up a mountain or up a cliffside or into the villages at least once a day also, on top of building a base.
So on top of digging a tunnel with a spoon? Yeah.
I mean, it was literally, I mean, some of the first tools that we got out there were so, it's almost disrespectful. They were giving us these 2-pound, pickaxes that were bouncing off the rock like ding ding, instead of going into the rock because they were so light. And guys were literally on their hands and knees with the shovels bent as picks and going into the rock like that with their e-tools. It was bad out there for a while, It was hard.
That's like worse than prison, isn't it? Like there's people on the chain gangs that are not doing shit like that.
Yeah, they're not getting shot at.
Yeah, exactly.
They stay in the line and pick on the rocks. They're not going to get shot. They're going to get 3 hot meals and go to sleep that night.
Do you feel like you're in like a live video game, or did it? Because I've asked people that before, and it sounds like a really weird question, but like it's so like when you'll sit here in the safety of your nest, and people come back from war, and like for me, it just feels like a video game. It's really hard to kind of.
It feels like a movie now. It feels like someone else's movie. I watch it and I know that I went through it, but I question whether it really happened. It's hard to, because my life is so damn different than that. I mean, I sit here, I have a cat and a rabbit. I have if it gets too hot in my house, which is like a degree too hot, I turn it down because I'm sweating a little bit. I mean, my life is, I can't even describe it. So, it's.
Did you think it was beautiful when you were there, even though it was a shithole?
Oh, it was one of the most amazing times. Like I said, I mean, it was what I want. It's what every guy should go through. I mean,
because some kind of rite of passage.
Yeah, I mean, the combat. I mean, there's only one way to get a combat infantry badge, and that's through combat. And you can buy your way into all these fraternities. You can do all this. You can do all that. But if you haven't been in combat for your country, and I'm not saying let's go start wars or anything, but there is a certain obligation, I think, that every man owes to his country when in time of war. So.
Do you think that people still don't really understand that we're at war in Afghanistan?
I really don't think so. I think it's very out of touch for people.
And they pay lip service to it when somebody dies. So when somebody dies, they're like, "Oh shit, someone's died and we're at war. Oh, we're really sorry. We're sorry we're at war. Sorry." Whereas actually, when I think about all of the success that we have in Afghanistan that we don't hear about, I get really frustrated.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things because you always hear about things that were blunders or accidents or terrible mistakes. A villager was killed when the Taliban was shooting from his village. I mean, yeah, that's terrible, but it had to happen. It wasn't by choice. That the guys that shot at the guy that was shooting at them made that choice.